We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Vav Amud Aleph Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 66a. This daf is sponsored by Sean Kashani. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amud or a daf, see the description box below. And please see the description box below to see how you can support this channel. On the previous Amud, Abaya was saying that there are some instances where we can believe in Eid Echad. Let's say the individual himself, he doesn't say anything. He's silent. In that situation, it's considered like an admission, and therefore we rely on the Eid Echad. And Abaya now gives another example. Let's say you have a situation where one Eid says, Shorcha nirba. He says, you're sure your ox was sodomized, v'halo shosek, and the person is silent about it. So Naman, so again, he is believed. And Rashi explains, Shorcha nirba v'asr l'hakrava. The point over here is, he's saying that your ox was sodomized, and therefore it's asr to bring it as a carbon. Aval l'soklo, Rashi points out, but if it's to give the shor skila, trei ba'in, and then you actually need two witnesses. Because the master said, just like the death of the owner, so too the death of the ox, meaning that you require two witnesses. But the point over here is, again, that in this situation you have one aid, and the person is silent about it, and therefore the one aid is believed. And the Gemara continues, V'tana tuna, the Mishnah supports this as well. It says, V'shenevda bo aveira, let's say you have a situation of an animal that an aveira was done with it, V'shehemis, or let's say it killed somebody, al pi eid echad or al pi abaylim, if it's through one witness or through the owners, again, in Namon, he is believed. And the Gemara says, Hay al pi eid echad hechidami, what exactly is the case that the one witness is testifying that an aveira happened? Again, that's talking about nirba, that's talking about sodomy, or that it killed. What are we talking about? There was one aid. Idikamodu bailim, if you're talking about where the owners admitted, hainu al pi bailim, that's already al pi bailim, that's through the owners, that's already listed in this Mishnah. So elalav, rather, is it not the shasuk? We're talking about where the owner was silent, and because the owner was silent, we're essentially believing the eid echad. And again, this is another example, says Abaya, of believing one aid. And the Gemara says, with tzricha, the Gemara says it's necessary to teach all three cases that the shtika, that when the person is silent, it's considered like a hodah, and we believe the one aid. And the Gemara explains why it's necessary to teach all three cases. The Gemara says, because if we only had the first case was talking about a situation where a person is going to bring a carbon because the one aid says he ate chaylev. If we only taught that case, he lav de kimle benavshe, de ovid chulin bazara, lo have a maisi. In that situation, of course, the person must be certain he's not going to bring chulin to the azara. He's not going to bring a carbon that's not an actual carbon to the Beis HaMikdash. And so therefore, in that situation, we'll say if he's silent and he brings the carbon, so we'll say we rely on the eid echad. Avol nitmu tarasech, but if the eid echad, if the one witness says that your pure food, it became impure, so then meimar amrinan, so then we'll say, hi the shasik, the reason why the person is silent, it's not because he admits that it's tameh, rather the sabr, because he's thinking to himself, chazile bimei tumasa, what's the big deal? I can always eat this food while I'm tameh, I don't have to eat the food while I'm tar. He doesn't really care if it's considered to be tameh, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's admitting to what the eid echad is saying. V'yashminan ha, and if we only had this case, mishum dekam mafsid le, bimei tarasu, because it's still a loss to him during the times that he's pure, it's still going to be a loss, so the fact that he's silent, it seems that he's admitting. Avol shoro nirba, but in the situation where the eid echad says that he tells the person that his ox was sodomized, meimar amar, so there again the person says to himself, kol ha-shavarim lav lagavi mizbeach kaimi, what's the big deal? Not all oxen are brought to the mizbeach. What do I care if this is disqualified as a carbon? And so that's why it's necessary to teach in all of these cases that the individual shtika is kehoda'ah. And Rashi explains, Vitana Tuna, again, the Mishnah supports this, L'inyan psule carbon bizvachim u'bebechoros, meaning having to do with disqualifications for being a carbon, or in terms of bechor, u'tzricha lashminan bekulu, and again, Abaya needs to teach us in all of these cases, tishtikaso hodahi, that his silence is considered an admission, chazi le bimei tumaso, maybe he doesn't care if the food is tamei, because he can eat it when he's tamei, v'lo ichbis, he doesn't care, v'lav hodahi, that's not really an admission, u'mutarim l'tahora, maybe we wouldn't believe it's tamei, and we'll even say it's mutter for those who are pure. Lav lagavi mizbeach kaimi, not all animals go to the mizbeach. V'lo ichbis leilachisha, so he didn't care to contradict him. V'hodah mi lo have it, but it's not an admission. Umutter lahakrav, and therefore maybe it's mutter to bring it as a carbon, and so therefore tzricha, again, it's necessary. It is considered to be like a hodah. And the Gemara continues, Iboilu, they had the following question. Ishto zinsa be'ed echad. Let's say one witness says that his wife committed znus, his wife committed adultery, v'shosek, and the individual is silent. Mahu, what's the halacha in that situation? Amar Abaya Neman, Abaya says in that case, he is believed that's considered to be like a hodah. Rava Amar Eino Neman. Rava says that the 1/8 is not believed. Have a davar shebe'erva, because this is considered a davar shebe'erva. It's something that has to do with arayis. Ve'ein davar shebe'erva pachos mishtayim. When it comes to davar shebe'erva, it cannot be with less than 2 witnesses. And the Gemara continues, Amar Abaya, Abaya says, Minoa aminullah, where can I prove to you that this is the case, that the Eid Echad is believed when it comes to Znus? There was a blind individual who used to organize brises in front of Mar Shmuel. He would recite the brises to Shmuel. Yom Echad Nagalei v'lo havika asi. So one time he was late and he did not arrive. Shada shlicha basrei. So Shmuel sent a messenger after him. The shliach was going on one path, so then the blind individual, he was coming a different way and they missed each other. And then when the shliach came, Amar, he said in front of Shmuel and the blind individual, Ishto zinsa, when I went to your house, I saw that your wife has committed adultery. Also, Lakami de Mar Shmuel, so he came before Mar Shmuel, and he said, do I rely on this 1/8? Amar le, so Shmuel said to him, Mehemin loch zil afka, if you trust this aid, so then you have to divorce her. V'ilo lo sapik, and if you don't trust the aid, then don't divorce. Now, what exactly did Shmuel mean by this? The Gemara says, my lav is it not? Imehemin aloch de lav gazlanu. It just means that if he's trustworthy, meaning he's not a gazlan, he's somebody that in general is trustworthy for edus, and therefore we see that we are relying on one witness over here. This story is a proof that we rely on one witness when it comes to zinus. But the Gemara continues, V'Rava, but Rava will respond and he will say, Imehemin loch kibei trei. All Shmuel was saying was, if this one witness to you is so reliable like 2 witnesses, zil afka, so then you should go and divorce her. V'lo, and if not, lo safka, do not divorce her. And therefore, according to Rava, this is no proof at all. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Abai, and Abai says, Meno aminullah, again, from where can I prove to you that we rely on 1/8 in situations of znus? The Tanya, because we learned in a Braisa, Maisa b'Yanai HaMelech, there was an incident with Yanai HaMelech, Shahalach l'Kuchlis Shavimidbar, he went to Kuchlis, which was in the wilderness, this was a place, V'kive Sham Shishim Krachim, and he conquered over there 60 cities in this particular area, this particular country. When he was returning, he was very happy. He called all of the Chachamim of Klal Yisrael. Amar lehem, and he said to them, Avoseinu hayu ochlim meluchim bizman shayu asukim bevinyan beis hamikdash. Our fathers were eating meluchim. They ate salty foods at the time they were building the Beis HaMikdash. Af anu nochal meluchim. So too we should eat salty foods. Zecher lavoseinu, as a remembrance for what our fathers did. V'helu meluchim al shulchana shel zav, and they brought these salty foods on golden tables. V'achlu, and they ate them. Vayasham echad, and there was one individual over there, Ish leitz leiv rau v'liyal. This was a person who had thrown off the yoke of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was a bad person. Ve'elazar ben Poira shemo, and his name was Elazar ben Poira. Vayomer Elazar ben Poira liyanai hamelech, and Elazar ben Poira said to Yanai hamelech, libam shel prushim alecha. He said, Yanai hamelech, the hearts of the prushim, of the Pharisees, of the sages, they are against you. Uma esa, so he said, what should I do? And so he said, Hakem lahem b'tzitz shebeinei necha. He said, you should have them rise before you by placing the tzitz between your eyes. The tzitz was something that was worn by the Kohen Gadol. Hakem lem b'tzitz shebeinei einav. And so he put the tzitz between his eyes, and he had them rise before him. Hayasham zaken echad, and there was a certain elder there, Yehuda ben Gedidya shemo. His name was Yehuda ben Gedidya. Vayomer Yehuda ben Gedidya liyanai hamelech. Yehuda ben Gedidya said to Yanai hamelech, Yanai hamelech ravloch keser malchus. Yanai hamelech, it's enough that you have the crown of kingship. Hanach keser kahuna lizaro shel Aaron. You should leave the crown of the kahuna for the descendants, for the children of Aaron. You shouldn't take upon yourself the crown of the kahuna as well. Shahayu omer, because they said imo nishbis b'modiyim, that the reason why he was disqualified from the kahuna, meaning to say Yanai HaMelech was disqualified from the kahuna, was because his mother was taken captive in Modi'im. She was violated in Modi'im, and so therefore he was disqualified for the kahuna. However, says the Braisa, v'yavukash hadavar v'lo nimsa, but when the matter was looked into, it wasn't found that it was accurate. It was not found that this report was reliable in terms of his mother being taken captive. V'yibadlu Chachmei Yisrael bezam, and the Chachmei Yisrael were expelled in anger because of this incident, because they said that he couldn't join the kahuna. Vayomer Elazar ben Poira liYaneh HaMelech. So then Elazar ben Poira said to Yaneh HaMelech, Yaneh HaMelech hedyot shabi Yisrael kachudino. When it comes to, he said, Yaneh HaMelech, when it comes to a regular person, so that would be the proper judgment, you expel them. V'yatam melech v'chohen gadol, but you who are a king and a kohen gadol, kachudincha, this is what you do to them, that's not enough. And so Yaneh HaMelech said, Umoasa, so what should I do to the Chachmei Yisrael? And so Elazar ben Poira said, if you listen to my advice, Romseim, you should crush them. V'Torah matei oleh, so Yaneh HaMelech said, but what's going to be with the Torah? And he said, in terms of the Torah, Harei kruchu menachas b'keren zavis, Elazar ben Poira said, the Torah is wrapped up, it's in the corner, kol harotza lilmod yavol v'yilmod. Anyone who wants to learn can learn, meaning to say, you don't have to worry about the Torah, that can be learned on its own. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Miyad nizrika bo apikarsis. At that moment, there was apikarsis in Yaneh HaMelech, because he should have had a response. The Havalei L'Memar, because he should have said, Teinach Torah Shebechsav. That makes sense when it comes to Torah Shebechsav, meaning to say, when it comes to Torah Shebechsav, we understand it's wrapped up in the corner, anyone who wants to learn can learn. But Torah Shebal Peh, but what's going to be with Torah Shebal Peh? In any case, miyad v'totzet tzara al yedei Elazar ben Poira. Immediately, this evil came through the guidance of Elazar ben Poira. V'yargu kol chachmei Yisrael, and all of the chachmei Yisrael were killed. V'yaha'olam mishtomim, and the world was desolate. Ad sheba Shimon ben Shetach v'hechzer sa'torah liyoshin, until Shimon ben Shetach came and he returned the Torah to its earlier proper status. And Abaya now brings his proof from this brisa. Hechi dami, what exactly is the case in this brisa? In other words, when they said that they originally thought that Yaneh HaMelech's mother was taken captive and then they did not discover it was true, what exactly happened? Ilema de beitrei amri ishtaboyu, beitrei amri lo ishtaboyu. If you're going to say that two witnesses said she was taken captive and two witnesses said she was not taken captive, so my chazis to samach tahani, samach tahani, why should you rely on these witnesses? You should rely on those witnesses. In other words, there'd be no reason to rely on the second witnesses over the first witnesses. And Rashi explains, so what does it mean that they looked into the matter and they didn't find that she was taken captive? It sounds like after they looked into the matter, they decide that he did have a presumption of being kosher. So if it was 2 against 2, they should not decide that he has a cheskes kashrus, because sumocha hani, you should rely on those. Maybe we should rely on the ones that said she was taken captive. Why would the Brisa say they did not find it to be true? That's not true. They have no idea whether it's true or not. Now maybe you'll say, well, if it's 2 against 2, they should cancel out. And then you should say that the mother should have her original chazakah that she's kosher. And so maybe that's what it means. They looked into the matter and they canceled out the witnesses. And that's why she said that she was kosher and that he was qualified for the kahuna. But Rashi says you can't say that. Hani mili ihi kamon. That would be true if she was in front of us. If she was coming to Bezin for herself to be mutter. But when we're talking about her son Yaneh HaMelech, and we're trying to decide whether he has a presumption of being kosher l'kahuna, ein lo chazaka de kashrus. He has no chazaka. He has no presumption of kashrus. Sharei meidim al tchilas leidasu b'psol. They're saying the very beginning, when he was first born, he was already disqualified at that point in time, and therefore there is no chazaka. And so the Gemara says it cannot be that it was 2 witnesses against 2 witnesses. And so the Gemara says, ela, rather you have to say be'ed echad, that there was 1 witness. Meaning to say there was initially 1 witness that said he was disqualified, and then 2 witnesses come and they undo that 1 witness. And the only reason why we don't believe the 1 witness is because 2 witnesses later came against that 1 witness. But if not for that, we would believe 1 witness, and that's Abaya's proof that we rely on 1 witness when it comes to znus. And Rashi explains, meaning 1 witness said she was taken captive, and then 2 witnesses come and they contradict the 1 witness. But the Gemara continues, V'Rava, how does Rava respond to Abaya? Liolam trei utrei. Really over there it was 2 against 2 in terms of her being taken captive. And it's like Rav Acha bar Rav Menyume says, Be'edei Hazama, we're talking about a situation where the second witnesses don't simply contradict the first witnesses. They're what we call Edei Hazama. They actually say that the witnesses, you were with us in a different place, and that actually completely disqualifies those first witnesses. Hachanami, just like he gives that answer in another context, here also, Be'edei Hazama, we're going to say we're talking about Edei Hazama. And the Gemara continues, V'bay same. If you want, I could say another answer. Kid Rabbi Yitzchak, it's like Rabbi Yitzchak says, the Yomer Rabbi Yitzchak, because Rabbi Yitzchak says, Shifcha hichnisu tachta. They actually substituted a Shifcha for Yanai HaMelech's mother. Meaning to say, the second witnesses say to the first witnesses, it's true what you saw, that they were about to take the mother of Yanai HaMelech as a captive, but really what happened was they substituted the Shifcha for Yanai HaMelech's mother. They were able to have them take the Shifcha instead, and you thought you saw that his mother was taken captive, but it was actually a shifcha. That's not really a direct contradiction, and in that situation we would believe the second witnesses. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava, Rava says, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Samech Vav Amud Beis.